Keith, I've got to ask you, first of all, about the big news regarding Thomas Frank today, who has lost his job at Tottenham, someone you know very well. Have you spoken to him, and what's your reaction to that news?
No, I haven't spoken to him yet. I actually found out as I was just about to present the meeting to the players on our game plan. And we've been pretty busy, obviously, with meeting, training, and coming to do the press conference and this interview. So no, I haven't spoken to him yet, but I'm really sad. Really was what I was feeling, and I said that to the players. The industry that we work in, obviously, is very unforgiving at times. But he's someone that is a friend. He was part of the reason why I came to Brentford. Really wanted to come to this football club, and I loved working with him. I really enjoyed working with him last season. Learned a lot. We're in touch pretty frequently, so I'm sure I'll catch up with him pretty soon.
And you expect him to still have a great managerial future?
I think he's a really good manager. I think he's, as you well know, he's proved that over numerous years at this club. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, things haven't quite worked out at Spurs.
When you say you've learnt a lot from him, what have you learnt from him?
I think he was so ingrained in this club and the values of this club and the way the club played and the way his team was playing at different facets of the game. Obviously, set piece is a big part of that. I became as the set piece coach, so it was a huge part of my day-to-day life and how I was preparing the team on that front and how he would deal with that. But by that stage, obviously, Thomas was a very experienced manager and did things in a certain way. So you're always learning. I'm a big learner. I just try and pick up little bits of, habits, ways that managers or coaches or people do in general life. So, yeah, for sure, I learned a lot.
So, Brentford 7th. They've earned their highest points at this stage of a season. You've been at Aston Villa for the very first time at Villa Park. You've also won at Newcastle since 1934. Kind of feels like management's a piece of cake for you.
No, not really.
Sure about that? Because it looks it.
I am loving it. I was loving it pretty much straight away. But obviously, there's different challenges along the way. You're initially trying to calm everything down a little bit because the narrative around the club, which players obviously read, their families, their friends, I'm sure we'll be speaking to them, their agents. So that was the initial one of just trying to calm everything and focus on what we are, the values of that I really believe in of the club, of togetherness, being resilient, sticking together, all those real basic words that are preached in a lot of places but not practiced. So that was my main focus initially, and I think once things calmed, I think we've just been able to grow as the season's gone on, and clearly confidence is in a good place, and we've had some really, really good performances, really good victories, and we're in a good place.
You talk about obviously having to block out the noise, essentially, but there was a lot of chat about you at the start of the season, where Brentford would end up as well. That must be quite hard to hear. How on earth do you shut that all out?
Very easily. I don't listen to anything or read anything. I genuinely didn't anyway, out of choice from a long, long way out. I remember getting told something in my very, very early 20s from senior players saying, don't read the local press because they'll love you and then they'll hate you. So that stuck with me. So I've never read anything about good reports, bad reports when I was playing, and I very much didn't intend doing that when I was a head coach. And I don't have the time, which is the other part of it. So naturally, families and friends will read bits and bobs and try and send you things, but I've been pretty clear on them. Don't bother. I'm not going to read it. So
yeah.
I blocked that out pretty easily, to be honest. I also live in a part of the world where it's not just a one club city or one club town, which I think helps, where you can just potter around on your day off and have a couple of hours where it's not always super intense. So I think that helps as well.
So I've known you for a while, obviously back in our other jobs, shall we say. So at what point did the pundit or broadcaster Keith Andrews decide that he wanted to be a manager?
I decided I wanted to be a manager when I was 29. I started coaching when I was 29, still as a player. But I didn't feel the need to broadcast it. I was dovetailing, doing media work, and learning along that journey, going to unbelievable games, gaining experience in front of cameras and interviews. But always coaching in the background, whether it was at a club or for numerous years was working with the Irish underage teams and travelling all over Europe with the 17s to European Championships. So I was always on that path, and it was always my long-term plan, but I felt like I needed to earn the hard yards to get to that point. A job of this magnitude certainly came quicker than I thought it would, but it was always the end goal.
So what would you say you've learned from when you first took on the role in the summer to where you are now?
Lots. Your day goes pretty quickly unless it's really well organised. Even when it is really well organised, which I think I am pretty well organised, it still can go. You really need to prioritise what you want to get out of a day, how you work, how you communicate with players and staff is key, and how you keep that up with the players. Maybe they're a little bit more disappointed, naturally, ones that aren't playing as much. But you're constantly evolving what you do, how you do it, how the team looks, your training habits, how you communicate with the players again is in team meetings, and how we get the best out of the players. So, and how we bring the staff together, because it was a completely new staff as well. So the dynamics of that. So much has changed and evolved as the season's gone on, but I think it's now in a pretty good place.
And when you look at the last two performances at Aston Villa and at Newcastle, very different. One was very defensive-minded, or defensive masterclass, as it was known, after going down to 10. And then we saw all clinical force against Newcastle. Are we now seeing the best of Brentford?
Yeah, I think in those two games, you're right, we had to show different ways of playing, didn't we, for obviously going down to 10 men. We didn't have much of a choice with that one, but just the magnitude of those two games and the environments that you go into facing those two opposition, they're very, very difficult. The level of coaches that they have, the level of individuals, the different ways of playing. And I think it just shows the evolution of our group to be able to deal with that, and the maturity, because we have got a young group in the main. We've got a lot of young players that are still learning and forging their way. So it was really nice to see the different ways of winning games, but ultimately winning games was nice.
And I know you keep saying one game at a time, but come on, as Brentford fans, as I am, we're looking at Europe. We're looking at the possibility of finishing in one of those European places. And I saw that Opta rated Brentford's chances of finishing in the Champions League at 20%. So simply to be in that conversation, Keith, as a Brentford fan, is incredible. So surely it has to be on your mind.
It's probably in the back of my mind. It's definitely not at the forefront of my mind. It's keeping striving and keeping pushing. And I think if we do, and we can keep the consistency of what we've brought over the last couple of months, maybe of the level of teams that we've played, how we're evolving, how we've played, the confidence within the players, the individual development of the players within the team structure, I think is a big part of that. And the belief, the confidence of where we're at is clearly, again, in a good place. So if we can maintain that, if we can continue on this trajectory, then we have to keep striving. That will only bring you in one direction. But for fans, which we've obviously got a few that work in the club, you have to dream. You have to. This is what it's about. It's about fans and players, and that's ultimately what it's always been about. So fans have to get excited.
So should, talking of dreaming, Igor Thiago be dreaming of being Brazil's number 9?
Yes, yeah, he absolutely
should. He be in your mind?
It's not. Yeah, that's a tricky one, because I've been an international assistant manager, so I never really liked reading a headline when the club manager was saying he should be the number 9. So, especially one of the caliber of Carlo Ancelotti, who I have ridiculous respect for. So
yeah,
but I can only speak about Thiago, and he has been immense. He has been so good in so many different ways, not just the goals. It's his overall performances, his overall game, and the selfless way in which he plays the game without the ball, set pieces, how he affects the game even when he doesn't score. I think Bournemouth at home was a really good example of that. I thought he was unbelievable. Kevin Chadha got a hat-trick, but Thiago was just unreal. He was the platform for us winning that game. So should he dream? Yeah, he should, and we've had numerous conversations about it, and that's what he's striving for, and that's exactly what he should be striving for.
A couple of questions on Arsenal then. Brentford lost 2-0 in December. What have you learnt from that game that you might be able to alter going into this one?
I think we're in a different place to where we were even then, even though it's not that long ago. It's a different feel to that game, away from home, obviously. we want to get the G-Tech rocking. I think it has been a lot this season, in the level of opposition we played and some of the results we've had. We've been pretty good at home. So we want to make it a night that's really uncomfortable for them.
Mm. Do you relish the fact that it could have a bearing on where the title ends up as well?
Not really. No. I'll be thinking more or solely really about us, to be honest.
About Europe?
Very good. I did watch the Liverpool-Man City game the other day and knew that would have an impact on this week, and obviously City will play before Arsenal and the nature of that. So I'm pretty aware of that dynamics, but we've got our own journey to worry about.
Europe. Yeah, I'll keep mentioning Europe. Just lastly then, what are you most proud of right now?
Where we've come from in the summer to where we are now. Really, really proud to be the head coach of this club. It's everything I wanted it to be. I've said this on numerous occasions. I didn't want to be a set-piece coach. I came here to work for Brentford and work for the people that are at this club, and that was a big decision in a way, because I'd always been an assistant coach or an assistant manager or whatever role it was. So that was a big decision in certain ways, but equally a pretty simple one once I got here and realised exactly what it was about. So I'm proud of where we've come from in a short space of time, but ultimately I'm really proud to be the head coach of this unbelievable football club.